Welcome to Tech This Way.
Anyway, Indy, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Imran. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for braving the almost rain.
Yes, it's been raining, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I know of Rentsmart, to be honest, only for the last about 6-7 months or 5-6 months, right? Yeah, since you joined the creative program for quite a time. So I would love to find out more about yourself, really, right? How you got into Rentsmart, and I don't know whether this is your first startup, your 10th startup, how you can go as far back as you want. Oh, it's your first?
Yeah, first.
Okay, so that's even more interesting. So,
So
you don't look like you just freshly graduated. So
No.
you must have been
Yes.
other places before.
Yes, I was in the corporate world for about 20 years.
So where was that? So let's go back as far as you want.
So basically graduated from IT. And then love IT. So during my studying days, it's all IT related. Actually, I wanted to be a programmer more than anything, but the offers that I received was more favorable to be a systems guy.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, life took me on that path. Went down that journey for about maybe around 15 years before I landed Hitachi.
Okay. So what was that early 15 years? Doing what?
Well, I was in. So it started with basic PC support, followed by service, then into enterprise service, enterprise data
tech
storage.
support lah. Essentially, just got the boxes got bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Boxes can continue to get bigger and bigger.
Right.
Towards the last few years, it was more of a consultative role, pre-sales role kind of thing. And then I landed. Then I was in HP before I left HP, and then I joined Hitachi.
Okay.
So HP was very much of a hands-on role, backup and data storage person. So anyway, joined Hitachi as a consultative role for configurations for APAC. And then within about 2 years, I moved up into managing operations in Hitachi itself, as in Hitachi Data Systems. So basically, it was managing quotations that come through from various different accounts. So we were taking, mine specifically was just the global accounts for APAC and Europe.
Okay.
So anything that comes through was mine, to my team to handle, of course. Then that, so that was about the time when managed services was really sort of picking up, outsourcing managed services and all that in the industry. And so to keep up with that bandwagon, Hitachi introduced quite a lot of interesting managed services kind of solutions.
Okay.
Now that was fascinating for me.
Yeah.
So it's completely new how a business would see the cost of getting rid people and equipment to be a lot more favorable. That was very interesting.
So this was transitioning from selling boxes to selling services lah.
Exactly.
Essentially, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Moving away from equipment to services.
Yeah.
So I asked for me to be transitioned to that team. They told me it's going to be a very steep learning curve, almost impossible. So I said, well,
that sounds like a no.
Yeah, actually, it was kind of like that. And somebody, I had a dotted line manager who said, you know what, I'm willing to give you a shot.
Yeah.
To him, the advantage was he was based in Europe. So it was like the end of his day. He could pass stuff to me. I get it done. By the time he wakes up in the morning, it's all done.
Right.
So I said, yeah, you know what, I'm up for the challenge. I took it on about a year in, and I think I did well in it. I think I aced it, and then they formally moved me into a full-fledged team.
Okay.
Managing commercials for APAC.
Where was the Hitachi office?
Actually, next door.
Oh, where's
UA
that?
Bangsa.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So
they ran. Is it a 24/7 center there?
Yes, they used to have a 24/7 center there. I'm not sure if they still do. It's been a few years now.
In UOA, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hitachi
I'm
Data
surprised. I thought it would
Systems.
be somewhere in, I don't know, Sabujaya or.
No, so Hitachi Data Systems was always in the city. It was a sales and marketing office.
It's got to be closer to the customers.
Yeah. And then eventually it grew in.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, That got me doing larger deals. One of my largest deal was a bank, multinational bank.
Okay.
Anyway, without trying to promote them too much. What I learned from that exercise, I mean, overall the deal was about 50 million, but what I learned from that was how, a business looks at equipment versus how us individuals looks at stuff.
What do you mean?
So say, for example, if a business were to purchase an asset, they're looking at how it's going to depreciate, when it's going to depreciate, and what's its value, what's its contributing value back to the organization. But when I buy a TV, I don't look at what its ROI for me.
Yeah. I just want the TV. And
I just
watch
want a
the shows,
TV and
yeah.
watch a show. I want the latest iPhone. And, I just want to show that it's trendy. I want the latest jeans. I want the latest jacket, right?
Yeah.
But we don't think like that. But these are the organizations that fuel the consumerism, consumption behavior that we have today. So they behave differently when they look at equipments and assets. And as individuals, we look at it differently. But when we get into the organization, we wear a different hat and we operate differently. And I sort of realized there's a problem there. The problem is, as individuals, what happens is we continue to just consume, right? At some point in time, there's just going to be too much things around. And the reality is there is already too much today. In about 25 years, maybe 30 years, the sea is not going to have any more floating ice because the temperature is going up. But anyway, so this sort of led to this point of how can we make the world more consumer friendly, have consumers a little bit smarter about how they consume things. Things from China that fuels this cheap buying behavior is not good. It's of course there's a lot of counterfeit products. It contributes to counterfeit products. It contributes to poor consumerism. So this is actually what we're sort of looking to try and change people's mindset and mentality. I mean, that's sort of what dawned on me at that point in time. And I was thinking, how can we, do things better?
And this was while you were still with Hitachi?
I was still with Hitachi.
Looking at this big issue that...
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that sort of struck me was the point earlier, right? That how businesses see things and how individuals see things. And of course, if you go and speak to a finance guy, they'll say, businesses operate based on balance sheet, but you and I at home don't work on balance sheet. But there is still something fundamentally different which changes the way we consume and use things. So anyway, I had this trip that I went to Taiwan for a bicycle trip.
Okay.
Cycling around.
You cycle, huh?
Yeah, I used to do a bit of triathlons and stuff. Died down a little bit, but hope to pick it up again. In that trip, I bought a bicycle bag.
Okay.
So bicycle case is not cheap. Cost me 2,005 for that bag.
These are one of those big hard cases.
Yes, it's like those hard cases.
Okay, I've seen those at the airport sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's it. Those bulky
Always
ones.
Ahmad Saleh's with a group of them.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So next to a surfboard, this is the next cool thing to carry around. So I bought one of those and it cost me $2,500.
Yikes.
Yeah, so I thought I was going to cycle more often and do more of these trips.
Are you married?
Yes, I am.
So that was the story to the wife, lah. I'm going to use this all the time.
That was the story to the wife. She didn't buy it.
No,
she said, "I bet it's not going to be used again after this." But you know what? At that point in time, I couldn't even think of an alternative. Like, there was no way to go and say, "Hey, anybody's got an extra bike bag."
Yeah. And I guess, and you don't like ship a bicycle there and then expect it.
You can. So you can potentially put it into the cardboard box.
Okay.
So you'll need to strip up all the components and then make it
pack
compact
it up,
and then pack it. But you've seen those videos how they handle baggages, right? So the last thing we want is those.
And then the assembly on the other side, right?
Assembly on the other side.
Yeah.
So this one is like simple,
So 2005 actually is cheap lah to save you all the effort.
In a sense of speaking lah, but to use it once. Yeah. So that's what happened to me.
Right. So you bought that,
I bought that, did the entire trip, came back, and I never. So here's the use of it, right? I packed up my bag, put it in the bag, put it through airport, reached Taiwan, got it shipped to Taitung. So that's in total about 24 hours of transport.
Okay.
Took it out of the bike bag. So the bike bag was sleeping in Taitung. Did my trip, came back 1 week later, took the bag from Taitung, straight went to the airport and shipped it back. So it's another day's use. So 2 days
2
use.
days, like, actually.
The entire trip was a little over 7 days.
Yeah.
And this is what happened. I came back, packed it and left it there.
Yeah.
I've never used it since.
Yeah.
So, I came back, I told some of my cycling friends about it.
And how long ago was this?
This was maybe 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
6 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah. So, told my friends about it and they go, oh, why you didn't ask me? I've got a bike bag.
Aye.
But I didn't know.
Not so loud.
Yes. Not to the wife, of course. You know what they say about cyclists, right? You tell the wife the price of the bike, right? The last thing you want is when you die, she sells it at the price you told her.
Oh, that's a new one. Okay, that's good.
So
Yeah, like the discounted price, right?
yeah, the massively discounted price.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with handbags. So
I don't know. I think they're quite honest with how
Really?
expensive it is.
mine no. She converts it from euros to ringgit, dollar for dollar.
Same number.
1-to-1 conversion.
Yeah, 1-to-1. So anyway, so you told your friend had it. It's like,
So,
alamak.
a couple of other friends had it. So I was thinking, there should be a better way for us to be able to share this information, right?
Yeah.
But it's really not that easy. So, like in the overseas, you have things like Craigslist, Gumtree, things like that, where they post. And they're just, you just got to keep posting. Like, do you have a bike bag? Do you have a bike bag?
Yeah.
And you got to keep following those posts. And
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of person that sits down and watches those posts. So, excuse me, I didn't think that to be very efficient. So I spoke to a couple of friends. A guy runs an agency, a DevOps agency. And he sort of came up with this idea of coming up with a platform. So we said, yeah, I think that sounds like something that we can work with. So we decided to do the whole feasibility study and looking at what the competition, what the market's like out there. And first thing we did was we ran a survey.
Okay.
So this is a mistake that we sort of made. We did a survey, but the survey was sent to friends and families who really love us.
Right.
And didn't want to,
Tell you the truth.
tell
lah,
us the
is it?
truth.
Yeah.
And spoil our dreams. To go, it's a good idea. I think it'll work. Because those are the people that we've sent to saying that, hey, the platform's open, and you go, the creak noise.
Yeah.
When they I just don't have the time to log in. But anyway, lesson learned.
Yeah.
But still, nonetheless, the survey was reasonably beneficial. So we got roughly about 100 people that responded.
Who's we at that point?
So at that point in time, there's myself, and then this guy from the agency, the DevOps, and then there's of course Deepan, who sort of started with the idea together with me. Essentially, us.
And this was on the side, or you guys had quit your jobs and jumped into this?
No. Still just all on the side,
Okay.
completely on the side.
Right.
So nothing really, on the ground. Nothing really, because we didn't even start a company. Nothing.
Okay.
Yet.
Yeah.
So we sort of did all this groundwork. We found a competitor, I wouldn't say a competitor, but a platform that does exactly this, called Fat Llama, based out of the UK.
What's it called?
Fat Llama.
Fat llama?
Yeah.
As in llama the animal?
Yeah, Llama the animal.
Okay.
Llama Gomo. Direct translation.
Okay, interesting name.
Interesting name, catches attention. Yeah.
But you wouldn't have associated that with the
rental- no,
platform, lah, yeah.
no.
Fat llama.
So I think it's a branding
Must be lah.
strategy. Like
I guess nobody knew Google before Google, right? So
exactly.
yeah, Fat llama might be the next thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry. Yeah.
So we
So
saw
you found
them,
them,
and then we realized that was very interesting platform, because what they did was they had exactly the kind of stuff that we had in our mind running, purely rental for stuff. Anything from your drill, your ladders, your camera equipment. They also had motorhomes, which is not popular this side of the world, but they were doing very well.
And these would be individuals lah who would put it up on their platform.
Yes, so they started off as a peer-to-peer platform. They have a fair amount of companies in there as well now.
Okay.
I think the reality about rental market is individuals will have some equipment, but companies will have the breadth of equipments you need. So if you need, let's say, 40 equipments, then a company would have.
Yeah.
But if you wanted something unique,
or like one bicycle bag.
yes, one bicycle bag. An individual would probably
Would
have
have
it.
that,
So
yeah.
I don't really see the both of them really competing in the same
Right.
space. And especially in rental markets, they serve a very different purpose. So
But there was no platform in Malaysia at that point, lah.
there
Okay.
wasn't one. Sorry, let me clarify. There was, but they were not. They were not functioning, or they were not promoting. There was two. I cannot remember their names to the top of my head.
Okay. But you remember seeing lah? There was
there was
a
two.
couple.
I think I have it in my. This one is my list of competitors.
Okay.
So I built out a whole list of competitors, looked at all the kind of features they had,
Yeah.
and what we can churi as features and what.
Hey,
we should
that's a startup life, right?
Yeah. So.
Okay. But you noticed that there were not many people were using it. There was no
In Malaysia?
These
I think
platforms that you said you found.
So all right. What we realized, one was called something Saver. Just cannot remember what it was, but there was another one as well. Just Rent or some anyway.
Okay.
What we realized the problem was, most of them only provide the booking facility.
Okay.
So you book it,
Right.
and then you still got to go to the shop and complete the order, as in pay and pick it up.
Okay.
But there's no guarantee that you will have it.
Oh.
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, I suppose the integration isn't there. So it's like me on Muda, right? I come up to you and I say, I buzz you and say, can I borrow your camera for 2 days? And you go, yeah, sure. You clean it up, you keep it aside for me, and I don't tear up. That kind, so the stores would be like, or even individuals would probably not put 100% effort, because thinking you also not putting 100%. So what we realized the missing gap was the commitment to pay.
Right.
So once you pay, you're not going to back away from it.
That's right. You will come and pick
You're
it up.
going to come and pick it up.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing we noticed. The second thing we realized was, which in Airbnb sort of inspired us in how to close that gap. How do you protect the item from being damaged? It's the ongoing question for the rental platform.
Right.
So we managed to actually find an insurance provider that would provide us the insurance to actually make this work for us. Just very similar to how Airbnb does it.
Yeah.
So we're able to actually protect the owners in the event a damage happens. So once we realized we could do that, then we also realized another thing. There is no need for deposits. Deposits can be reduced.
Okay.
Right? You can reduce the deposit because the deposits in no sense is an income. Right? It is actually just a security in the event something goes wrong. So it does not even cover an income. So my problem with deposits is, because people see a deposit of 500 or $1,000, then what they try to do is shrink the number of days they can rent it. So if maybe they intend to rent it for 4 or 5 days, but because the deposit's so high, they may try and say, okay, how if we come in at like 7 o'clock at night, and then I return to you, 4 o'clock
Yeah,
in
they
the
don't
morning
want
the
to
next day.
be away from their deposit for too long. I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. And I guess you want also avoid people who lend out to accidentally use the money lah, can't return the deposit
That's
right?
also another thing, right? The last thing you want, which is why as a platform we need to ensure that responsibility is with us. And so we thought there's no need for such a high deposit. Of course, you want them to have a skin in the game, which is why you take a deposit, but it didn't need to be so high.
Yeah.
So for that reason, we sort of designed these things weren't functioning in those guys at that point.
I see. Okay.
So we designed a site similar to Fat Llama in many sense. With the only difference is we collect the deposit. So we launched.
Also, they weren't collecting
No,
deposit.
they're still not collecting deposits. But again, they actually do something quite interesting there. That they are connected with the banks and stuff like that, so they can do a direct debit.
I see.
From people.
So they had payments lah.
Yeah, they
But
collect
just not
payments.
deposit, okay.
Yeah. So these were some of the learnings we took from the people at that point in time, and whatever competitors that we saw regionally, and we incorporated that into Rentsmart, and then we launched it. So we originally launched it as a peer-to-peer site, but it didn't quite work as a peer-to-peer site. And the main reason is we are not quite a renting market here, as opposed to in.
You mean the mentality lah of people are still not there,
not
is it,
so
to
much
rent?
into renting. Yes, the
Because we just buy.
I think it's that, but I think it's also because they have this socialist nature to share with one another. So that also helps with this idea of renting.
Okay, not us so much. You're saying
Less. We do it less. We wouldn't mind lending it, but if I don't know you, I just wouldn't even lend it to you, kind of thing. That's so it's
not
like
very
our
common,
neighbors,
true,
right? We, in our neighborhood, we just take a look at that. How many of us walk up to our neighbors and say, "Could you lend me your drill, or can I borrow a ladder?"
Yeah, it's not something we do lah.
Not very often.
If you knew your neighbor in the first place, but but yeah, it's true. I mean, only close friends, yes.
Close friends.
Yeah,
So
but not kind of neighborhood. Slightly distant.
So the problem with my close friend is if the guy lives in Kajang and I'm here, it's like
it's impossible. Also,
yeah.
right?
So
Unless it's a 2,500 bicycle bag.
Oh
lah,
yes,
you
of
would
course.
have
That's
done
a
that,
whole
right?
different conversation, right? I'll make the trip. I'll take the
Yeah.
Lala move, go all the way there, bring it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess it's quite fundamental, right? In terms of the behavior
Yeah,
that we don't.
we don't.
Yeah.
Generally, we don't. So
Okay.
so that's something we realized very early on, and we quickly pivoted to a B2C model because that's where the market was. There was a market
okay.
for a B2C model. So businesses, so the last 20 years, the buying and selling businesses had e-commerce to get on. There's this whole Alibaba, Amazon,
Yeah.
Shopee, Lazada, right?
Yeah.
But nobody took care of rental market.
Mm.
So that's where we are sort of coming in and closing that gap.
Okay.
So they just need to have a marketplace where they can put all their products and facilitate rentals online.
Mm. So if we go back to your own journey then, right? So you were just doing this on the side,
Yeah.
right? When you finally launched the first version, were you still on the side, or did you guys then say, okay, the
First version, June 2019. No, I had. Okay, so when we were ready to launch, we knew there was a lot of work that had to come in. So I had left my job 3 months before that to start the whole groundwork.
So how was that? How was, coming from a
Corporate
salaried
world.
guy, corporate guy for the last, whatever by then, 16, 20 years almost, right?
Yeah, 20 years.
Right, 20
yeah.
years. And then to say, okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to...
not easy.
Yeah, so but what
That's-
drove you to do that? What was the
What was the
deciding factor?
driving?
Yeah.
So, you remember what I was saying about the whole consumerism thing? I do believe in that because I cycle. I was conscious about my carbon footprint and things like that. Sorry, I don't mean was as in a past tense, but as
You
in
still do,
I still do. So that was one of the things that was driving my innate behavior as to why I want to get into this. I think that's also important for people today and the next generation to have, a future that still resembles what we saw, right?
Yeah.
Not
Or
just
better.
cloudy skies, or better, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not just cloudy skies, but you still can see trees and stuff. But so that's really what was inside. It was difficult. Conversation with the wife was not too bad. I actually expected more challenge, but she was supportive with a little bit of reasoning. But what was trickier was preparing my finances to keep me going.
Yeah.
But I sort of did already have something. I have been thinking about trying to start a business of sorts. I have got friends who've got some side business, whether they're selling stuff online or whether it's an MLM. So the salary becomes a supplementary income. Oh, sorry, the side business becomes a supplementary income to their salary.
Yeah.
And so that sort of motivated me to think about those kind of things, something to do on the side. But yeah, I sort of came to a point where I think somebody needs to do this full time, and I was ready for it.
What about your other two partners?
So the other guy is actually helping us on the tech,
Yeah.
right? And Deepan was also ready. Well, he was at that time working with veterans.
Okay.
That was his project,
Yep.
right? So he was tied up there.
But he was at least in the startup life.
Oh
lah,
yeah, he was
right?
in the startup life.
Right.
He was in the startup life.
Mm.
So if anything, we draw a lot of experience from him,
Mm.
right? About whatever he has gone through,
Yeah.
you know, in terms of what a startup world is, what are the ways to market it, you know,
What's the pain?
what's the pain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess again from your side, you've not run a business before, right?
No.
So you know you have to rely on others like, in terms
I
of the
do.
experience.
I think there are certain things that is fundamental. Running operations, running a business, they are somewhat correlated. The only difference I think with the business is you just got to keep an eye on your P&L. With operations, that's been sort of my strength over the years. I've sort of built strength in that area, and so it wasn't too difficult to quickly get into that mode.
Okay.
The tricky part was to manage multiple different domains, from marketing to finance to tech support, customer service.
Yeah, it's a whole gamut.
It's a whole different thing. So
Yeah.
just learning to switch every time. Didn't take too long because at the start it didn't have too many customers. So all we needed to do was just sort of switch our just switch your mindset. It takes a little bit and you're ready to go.
Sorry, so when you launched, you were still with I guess Hitachi at that point, is it?
No, actually, when I launched,
or you were,
I had just left.
oh, you had just like, okay, so you timed it such lah.
We not quite. We were supposed to launch earlier,
Right.
but there were some tech delays that couldn't launch.
As
so
per usual.
so it worked out. It worked out alright.
Okay.
It worked
okay.
out alright.
But which means that you left even before you saw any traction or
Yeah,
anything
because what we needed to do was sort of get the word out there, start the whole the marketing process and stuff like that. So that was one of the reasons I had to leave.
Okay.
Well, somebody needed to be there to do that full time.
Yeah.
And I can't do that with Hitachi being in a company.
To be fair to both lah, right?
To be fair to both, yeah.
Okay. All right. So you say okay, then you jump lah.
Jump lah.
Okay. And at that point, it was still the peer-to-peer model.
At that point in time, I was still peer-to-peer.
Okay.
Yeah. So getting that whole thing out to the market, trying to get people to come on board. We had roughly about 100 over products that came onto the site. Not ours, but other people's.
Yeah. How did you go to market? How did you spread the word?
Well, first thing was, you remember that survey I did? So I went back to that list.
Brothers, sisters, cousins, and best friends.
Their friends and whatever. So we did have some people from that list who put on.
Yeah.
Some didn't. But what we also did was, well, if you don't think that this might be good for you, tell your friends about
Right.
it. So
Yeah.
we got some people. But what didn't happen was the whole traction, the renting traction.
Right. So you had some items, but then the renters were not there.
Yeah, the renters were not there. Obviously, that to bring them in was a budget thing lah, to do marketing and all that. So we thought, you know what, we will just run it for about 6 months plus and see how it goes. We did a couple of ads. We ran a couple of ads. Not very successful because it was me who did it, so it was not that great. My first attempt on Google Ads. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I mean, I don't want to disparage all IT guys lah, but maybe the tech guys are not quite
yeah.
the artistic, is it? Or marketing lingo wise.
I thought it was just too simple for me. It's like, oh, just put keywords in, fine.
Yeah.
How difficult?
Where's the yeah. I can engineer this.
Yeah, exactly. I can engineer this. And so what happened was I just keywords. Okay, took a whole bunch of keywords I could think of.
Yeah.
Right, and dumped it in there. And yeah, I had tons of clicks, but it was for the wrong stuff. So they come thinking that they're buying laptops.
Ah.
Right, so that was bad. So that gave us a bad quality score and stuff. So I went back to the drawing board and studied it again later, and then I realized, you got to research it first, see what people are looking for, not what you think they are looking for.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we did that, and then fine-tuned that. So that also, when we fine-tuned that, it also sort of gave us our beachhead strategy.
The what?
The beachhead, the first, the like a bowling ball, you hit the middle one and then hopefully
The first
everybody,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that beachhead strategy.
The beachhead. Okay.
Beachhead, yeah.
Yeah.
So that gave us our beachhead strategy. after studying it, that gave us, we were able to come up
Right.
with the beachhead strategy. So
To even consider that there needs to be a beachhead strategy was something that you had to learn too, right? I'm sure.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Quite embarrassing to say, but yeah. Well, actually,
No, I don't think you have to. You know, it's like
it
not a lot of people know unless you are doing your own business. Eh?
yeah.
You can pretty much ask 95% of the corporate guys out there. It's like,
Yeah.
what? So
Well, what's that? Yeah,
that's
correct.
right. You just market lah.
Correct. Yeah. What's so difficult with marketing?
Yeah.
Just put it up in the newspaper. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
whole different
yeah.
thing altogether. I've got newfound respect for marketing people, by the way.
That's right. Yeah. It's not easy to. It's more psychology and
Yeah,
and nothing else.
getting the copy right, getting the messaging right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was interesting also around that time I learned was when you open up a marketplace, you've got to have, your beachhead strategy has got to be also your product focused strategy. So we were sort of like anything, everything, anybody would want to come and join us.
Right. Or in
That-
terms of the types of items that's going to be on the
Correct.
platform. Okay.
Yeah. So that was not so good. And the reason for that is, you see, when Lazada first started, if you recall, they sort of started with electronics, phones, and then
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
that's the most consumer demand
Yeah.
anyway. Online on e-commerce. So they started with electronics, and then from there they evolved to added on all the other products. And then of course when Shopee came, they were ready to just
Do everything.
just do everything because the market already understood what a marketplace is.
Mm.
So for rental, there isn't one like that, and we started off with that so-called Shopee strategy. Not too good an idea because when you market to people, they'll be like, okay, I was looking for a laptop, but this got costumes here as well. I don't think these guys the right guys.
Okay.
So anyway, that was December, January, and then COVID was just around the corner, and it hit us. So when it hit us, we were sort of lost because all our so-called strategy was just sort of thrown out the window. We didn't know what to do. So that was March, April. April we tried to work on some things with the hospitals. So
Sorry, but
yeah.
from moving from the peer-to-peer model to the
the business.
B2C model, so at this point you can't abandon the peer-to-peer and say, okay,
we
let's go
didn't
B2C?
abandon. It's just that it took a lot more effort to convince an individual to put a product on the site than to tell a business person to put a product.
Yeah.
So if I spend 30 minutes with a business owner, there's a 80% chance that person will sign up and put products on the site.
Right. And that's products plural, right? And
Yes,
lots of products.
plural.
Yeah.
So you'll get, on average, about 20-ish.
Right. As an individual, you might get a one or two.
You'll get one or two. I did have one individual with 52 different products.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she
Interesting.
the
Hoarder.
moment, yeah. I wouldn't
No
say
offense.
that.
Not your favorite customer. But I say it, like, what a hoarder. Well, he was nice enough to rent it out.
Yeah, I think some people have got stuff just because they have, especially people who live in landed property.
Yeah.
They just got tons of stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have a lot of stuff lah.
Yeah.
Especially now with Lazada and Shopee, right?
True,
I think
true.
people are. Okay lah. So that's another 2 hours worth of conversation lah. Okay, sorry. I was just thinking about. So by the time this was early last year, you already focused more on businesses lah.
We already
Okay.
focused on B2C.
Yeah.
So we knew that's where the market was.
Mm.
We started reaching out to them.
Mm.
It was much faster. So within 1.5 months, just before COVID, so that's about 2.5 months. We already had about 1,500 items.
Wow, that's a huge
additional.
jump.
Yeah,
But in terms of the type of items, you were still quite broad lah.
we were still quite broad.
Okay.
We were still quite broad. That's because when we started that strategy, when we executed that strategy, it was just sort of all over the place. So when I realized it was midway through. I couldn't just stop because emails have been sent out and so I couldn't stop it. So I thought just let this pan out and then see how it goes. So anyway, then COVID came. And then in April, we tried to work with some of the hospitals, providing them things like canopies, these air purifiers and stuff. So I think we were able to help some, not many, because there were a lot of NGOs sort of sitting in between. And also another thing is that not most of our providers were businesses who were also hit by COVID.
Yeah.
So they needed some sort of income. They were willing to go really, really low in price, but they needed something. The tricky part was most of the hospitals couldn't pay unless it was coming straight from the ministry or something like that.
I see.
So for that reason, I said, I mean, I can't do much. I can do this far, but past this, I'm kind of stuck. So we tried to work with a couple of NGOs. They wanted it free, and I tried to help both parties, like get these guys to pay a much lower sum for all this equipment. It didn't really work out. So the few people that we were able to help, we helped. Came May, mid-May, June, it was almost down to zero. I think end of May was completely zero. We had some orders in June, and then we sort of restudied all our marketing strategy.
Right.
And we realized that, during this whole pandemic, we have like some 15, 20 different major categories, right? What the 70% that was not doing well, there was 30% that was doing super well. So we said, you know what? We need to jump into this side.
This 30% lah.
This 30% and move all our marketing strategy there. So we did that.
So what was the 30%?
Essentially most of the electronics, laptops predominantly.
Maybe it was also because of the remote
from
schooling
home,
and all that, right?
It was mainly because of that.
Okay.
So when we saw that, we said, you know what, let's jump on this bandwagon.
Yeah.
So we started to get all our partners right and quickly did our marketing strategy with that, and we were riding that wave.
Okay.
So it wasn't too bad actually. Once we sort of figured out this strategy, it wasn't too bad. It's not great, not what we would really anticipated, but I wouldn't say I'm disappointed. I wouldn't say that. So that was my real first taste of success, if you could call it. That okay, we've got something going right.
Yeah.
And then after that, we've been doing that since. And then in August, September, the market started to open up a bit. People were going for their holidays. There's a whole bunch of laptops and cameras. And some event stuff that went out as well.
For that short period anyway.
During that short period, loads of orders. We had things like karaoke set, barbecue sets going out, in and out. And then as it shut down again in October, what was interesting was we had things like paper shredders being rented up.
Okay. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like companies shutting down and stuff.
So that was going in and out. So it was not too bad. And actually, I won't say it's a smooth wave and it's a constant growth, no. But this last 3 months, so January, February, March, and now, well, this month is going to spike, but January, February, March, we have been growing 10% month on month.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this month, there's a huge spike because there's 2 large orders. So, but I just hope that I can push that for May and not deprive us. But I'm quite happy with where we are and how we are progressing.
And these are focused again on just on the electronics,
Predominantly, because this market's opening up. We have our event guys coming back, so we've got a couple of canopies booked.
Okay.
Some costumes were booked.
I guess for the items that's on the platform, it's just on the platform lah. It's not really you have to stop. I mean, put them out.
Nothing stopped.
It's just a question of your own marketing and focus lah.
Yes,
I see.
our own marketing and focus. So, as we target the market accordingly, as we target our marketing strategy accordingly, the people will come for these items. But as the traffic when we see the traffic coming, we position our marketing. So it's this chicken and egg thing. We've got to test and see what's happening, and then keep playing around with that. Yeah.
So you spoke about, I guess what is controllable from your side is to go find the companies to rent out, right? Yeah. That's the easier between for this equation lah. But how then do you go find the customers, right? Because as you said earlier, the mentality for Malaysians to rent stuff is actually is not quite there, right? So how did you address that
rent stuff from individuals is not quite there.
I see.
We wouldn't mind renting it from a shop.
I see. So when it's something that's more reputable, I feel like,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
So if I'm like, let's say you didn't know me, right? And I bumped by you and I said, you've got a phone. Can I borrow your phone? You'd be like, this guy's probably going to run away with my phone. No, sorry, no battery. Something like that. But if let's say it was a shop and I walked there and I said, look, I want to rent a phone for a day, the whole conversation is completely different. So people would rent. It's just that they're not in a sharing economy sense, right? In the definition of sharing economy, where it comes down to peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
So renting in its essence is probably one of the earliest forms of sharing economy, right? But not from that perspective, I think people would rent. And actually what we have noticed is the increase in renting behavior because of the fact that the economy is not that great at the moment. As it's sort of crunching, right? Everybody's trying to save $1 here and there.
Yeah.
And that's getting them to also start renting. Not because they want to save the environment or anything, but because of...
It's financials lah.
It's financials. Yeah.
Okay. What would be a typical rent transaction look like? I don't know, for one of your laptops, right? So
An average? So, okay,
in terms
so
of price,
everything's going to be a
period,
little topsy-turvy because of this whole COVID situation. So currently we're getting people renting on average about 5 days.
Okay.
So you're roughly spending somewhere around $150 on the laptop itself and then another $100 on deposit.
Okay.
So it's about between $250 to $300.
That doesn't sound that cheap. I guess where I'm coming from is I was wondering whether for like leasing a car, right? It comes to a price point where it makes sense to lease a car for 3 years, because in the end I'm going to change cars anyway, right? Then I'll do that, as opposed to traditionally we always buy, right?
Correct.
So I'm wondering whether similarly for a laptop I'll just lease it for for a year and then I'll upgrade.
So renting and leasing is a different thing lah, right? So leasing typically tends to mean long term and renting typically tends to mean short term. So how on Rentsmart, how we define short term and long term is anything less than 2 months is short term. And why I call it short term is as long as I've got to collect that money all up front, that's short term. If the customer's got to be paying it on a reoccurring basis, on a monthly basis, then it becomes long term already. So
okay, sorry, that didn't occur to me. Okay, so there is so when you rent for short term, you're actually paying the whole lump sum. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how Rentsmart works.
Okay.
So for long term is anything more than 60 days. So that's how it works for us.
Okay.
Now, if the person's renting a laptop, they only need it short term. It's most likely because they probably already have something else and they just want this on a temporary basis. And we have things like teachers, universities teachers, and students sometimes coming to us because their coursework maybe require them a Mac, them to use a Mac, or maybe they got to work from home but their home computer doesn't support certain softwares, so they just use this, as opposed to buying a brand new one which starts at about 1,005 and above that kind of similar specifications.
Yeah.
So then you go, well, actually it's not too bad, right? Because I spent $250 for the rental and I've got $250 is including the deposit, so it's only $150 really
for 5 days.
For 5 days, and it as opposed to spending, so it's only 10% of potentially your right, your
and especially if you don't have the need to have it for long term anyway. You're not intending to buy anyway, right? Just for
you just need it. So technically you could do a 5 day short, right? Another 9 times. Yeah. Before it becomes, you
should have just bought it.
Yeah.
But if you're not planning to do more than that 9 times anyways,
then you would very likely rent. Now, so coming back to your point about leasing, so if you want to lease a laptop, then suddenly the price becomes a lot lower. So you can start leasing a laptop maybe around 50 to 100 ringgit, between that, depending on the spec, per month.
Does the platform also have that capability to lease?
Yes,
for long? Okay. So
we have a few active orders already. So at the beginning of the year, we had lot of requests for leasing laptops. So we made that tweak, and we are ready to handle leasing now.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't call it leasing; we call it long-term rentals.
Right.
But as you pick the dates, the price automatically calculates accordingly.
Ah, okay. What's the hottest item right now that's getting rented out?
Laptops.
Laptops.
Yeah. Laptops.
So because when you say electronics, even that's quite broad, right?
It is. It is. So generally in the electronics category, right, cameras, laptops would be my main. So if you talk about my beachhead strategy, it would be cameras. But right now it's laptops that's sort of leading the way, and we are letting that sale just take its own course.
Ride it lah. Yeah.
We're just riding the waves. Yeah, the wind's blowing us in that direction.
What's a close third after those two?
There is not very good close third, because they're all, that forms 85% of our revenue.
Wow, laptops and cameras, huh? Or more laptops anyway lah.
More
than
laptops.
cameras.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those two form about 85% of our revenue.
So how many units or items of cameras and laptops are available on the platform now?
Oh, tons. Laptops, we have roughly about, I think we have about 70 to 80 different types of laptops.
Right.
But inside, I mean, these are listings. So in a listing, you'd have probably 20 to 30
units each lah.
Yeah. Maybe more for some.
Okay.
So there's,
even if you average to 10 each, so that's about 800, 700 laptops out there lah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we also have, so for cameras, there is about 280 listings, thereabouts, maybe a little over. That one, each item has probably a range between 1 and 5 in quantity. So that one is not that many.
Okay.
So something interesting, we just onboarded Iskandar Studio, Iskandar Malaysia Studio.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they had a... You mean the one where they did the films and all that in Johor?
Yeah, in Johor.
Didn't they do one Netflix Chinese movie, the hantu thing, right? Some horror Chinese... Oh, okay lah. So that Iskandar Studio lah.
Iskandar Studio, yep.
As a customer or as a rent?
As a vendor.
Oh, as a vendor?
As a vendor first.
Okay. What are they renting out?
So what's interesting with Iskandar Studio is they've got a whole bunch of things, right? From spaces to equipment to props and all that.
Yeah.
So we're starting with the props. And then
props as in the costumes?
They've got costumes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They've got costumes. They've got literally stuff that you could use around to set up a, Peranakan era kind of, setting. So for independent filmmakers, things like that, this would be really good. Okay. So now the market's opening up. We slowly.
So this is definitely not electronics and not part of your beachhead strategy. But because
it was part of the beachhead strategy, as in the old strategy, not the not the revised, broad, not the COVID revised one.
Okay, the more focused.
Not the more focused one. So, but this is also another strategy that we're heading down, because it's good because it makes it more accessible for independent filmmakers and generally filmmakers to get access to these kind of things for filming and things like that. I mean, even if you're not and you're just decorating your place, you're welcome to, because the prices aren't ridiculously expensive either. It can come down to as low as $20, $30 a day.
How did you land that deal with Iskandar?
That's quite a bit of luck, I guess. So we were in Base Conference in January last year.
Okay. It was still open?
When it was still open. And that was held there in Iskandar.
Yeah.
And during that...
I wonder if we met. Because I was down there too for that conference.
Yeah? Did you see our booth?
I must have. It was in that big hall.
Yeah.
With all the food trucks outside, right?
Food trucks outside, yeah.
I must have seen
so we actually pitched as well. We pitched in that hall.
I may not have stayed on for the pitching sessions, but okay, so you were there. Okay,
so I was there, and then the CEO and the CFO first noted us.
Okay. That's why I quickly can give you the example of that horror movie, because I was down there too. Because when you park your car, you're walking through the set, remember?
Yes, correct.
For the show.
Yes.
Okay. So then you met the...
So I met the CFO. He saw this and then he liked the idea. So we had our initial conversations with them. Then the CEO came down to KL to meet us. This was before COVID hit. And he said, yep, all good. After a conversation with him, he says, okay, good, let's start the onboarding process. And of course, then COVID hit. So, they've got quite strict regulations in terms of the whole terms and conditions stuff.
Right.
So we had to go a lot of back and forth with them.
Oh, go through your lawyers and all
Go through
that.
legal.
What about you guys? I mean, you're not big enough to hire your own lawyer, so you
No,
just use
so we had a lawyer who sort of did our terms and conditions. So they sort of helped us out with
Okay.
us. They actually helped us out with it. They did it at pro bono.
Give them some costumes as a payment.
No, actually, I think the only thing is as long as we stay with them and they continue to use their service, they'll be
They'll
happy.
grow with you, right? Yeah.
As long as we grow together, lah. So
Yeah.
I think in this time, right, you sort of need to help one another out, lah.
Yeah, for sure.
In the market. Otherwise, it's kind of difficult.
So do you see? So you were saying how you zoomed into electronics, right?
Yes.
Because it's true, lah, right? For whatever platform it is, if you cannot think of it as for one thing, then you wouldn't think of it of any other, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember I learned this lesson many years ago, lah, while there were still CDs, right? The example is, if you think of CDs, you'll think of Virgin or HMV, right? These two shops. Think of CD, you think of them, right? Does that mean that Woolworths doesn't sell CDs? It's like, no.
Yeah.
There are some shops that sells everything.
You're correct.
But when you think of CDs, you don't think of those. You think
yeah.
of just the specialized ones, right?
Correct.
So back to your point. So you've kind of gravitated towards electronics rental. Oh, just go to Rentsmart, right?
Yeah. What happens?
Sounds
next?
to me like is this movie production type equipment thing? Could that be an interesting niche for Rentsmart?
Yes, that's definitely a niche. Actually, that is going to be something that we're going to build as a vertical, and we're going to try and really build some focus in there, because we've got the network already. We've got the support of the vendor. I think that's a really big help. So the next thing is basically go dive deep inside, capitalize the opportunity when we still have it. Definitely, yes.
And I think it's one of those industries, especially that people don't buy to keep, right?
Exactly.
You only do it for one production, and then you just give it back.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's what's also good is in a movie set, if you say, for example, you wanted a sofa, right, you'd probably block it for your entire production because you don't want somebody else to take it. But now with the ability for you to book it online, you could just book the 2 days you need it, the other 2 days you need it.
Instead of a whole stretch, lah. Yeah.
So if nobody else wants to fit in that thing, well, it's your gain, right? So all of a sudden, your cost suddenly from booking so much can be shrunk because you book for the essential days you need it.
Yeah, it's true. Then you can definitely cut your cost further.
Yeah.
And for the person who rents, okay lah, for them doesn't matter lah. Although in fact, it's good for them too, right? They'll get to service more people, right?
Exactly.
Rather than turning people away, right?
So short term, if you're renting it for 1 day, obviously it'll be more expensive than renting it for a week. So if you rent it for 2 days, another guy rents it for 2 days, they make probably much more than a week.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, multiple short ones can earn more than a nice long 2 months, right?
Exactly.
Even though there's that peace of mind, lah, right?
Yeah,
That has been rented out, but still.
So if it's about making income, you want to be having continuous.
A steady kind of customers, right? Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Right. 2 questions come to mind, right? The first one is from a logistics standpoint. So your platform will allow me to book, right? And then do the deposit payments and all that.
Yeah.
Then what happens after that in terms of logistics and pickup and all that?
So in that sense, Rentsmart's kind of flexible. We provide 3 options to the owner to decide.
Okay.
Actually, I break it down to 2 main options. Either the owner wants to make arrangements, or they want to let the renter make their own arrangements. That's what the options available.
Okay.
So if you're the owner and you want to handle the delivery, you set your delivery prices, and it's completely up to you.
And you put it on the platform, lah.
It's on the platform. So as you're selecting the product, you select your dates and you select the delivery where to, right? then comes the next one, where the owner selects the renter to make their own arrangements. So there you break it down to two further options, where the renter can either go there themselves and pick it up, or they can ask Rentsmart to make arrangements for it to be delivered to them.
Okay.
So both of these options also work.
So that's additional service fee for you guys lah.
Yes, we make additional commissions on delivery lah. Yes, but if they pick it up themselves, we don't. So we have designed the system such that the owner actually can even sort of determine whether the customer is allowed to use the delivery service or not. Because some of them, they want to see that customer. So for that reason, they take off we just turn off a certain function, and then the item does not show Rentsmart delivery. So really the owner controls how the item is delivered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the second question is in terms of the problems with renting lah. What happens with, I know, customers who don't return stuff, or there's breakages, or there's disputes? Has there been many of those kind of things?
Touch wood, I've only had one where a camera went underwater and got flooded.
Okay.
The owner took accountability for this. So
you mean the customer?
The owner.
Oh.
He gave the wrong casing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, he gave the wrong casing.
Okay. So that's
he took accountability. But so far we have not had any issues. We've had one customer that did not return on time. But when she did return it, she paid the difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, yeah. So that could be another issue, right? People not returning it on time.
Yeah.
Do you get a discount if I return it earlier than the thing?
No, you don't, because as far as the owner is concerned, that is his revenue, right?
Right.
So if you return it early,
that's your loss, lah.
Yeah. If you give back money, means he's losing revenue.
Yeah.
So we can't do that to the owner.
Okay. So that's a pleasant surprise that in terms of damages and those kind of disputes, there has not been.
Yes, which is why I think I mentioned somewhere else that actually Malaysians are a lot more responsible than people give them credit for. I mean, I've pitched a couple of times, and some of the judges would turn around and say, "I'm sure you're going to get damages," and we've had like 400 over orders, only one. Yeah, so it's a very reasonable percentage.
So without knowing that, right? The argument can be two ways, right? One could be, well, if I'm just renting, it's not even my stuff. Why should I take care of it, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it's not my thing, right? Maybe there's an Asian thing like, oh, it's not mine, like, you better take care of this thing, right?
But there's also, at the moment, we're still collecting the 100 ringgit deposit. So there's a skin in the game, right?
Yeah. You do want to get that back.
Yeah. Also, we also do a verification of people. So they need to submit either their IC, driving license, or if you're a foreigner, you submit your passport.
Okay.
And then it's verified against your face. So we do that as well as part of the renting process. So I think maybe that too, people don't want their identity to be associated with any
something
form
like
of crime. Yeah.
So touch wood, the it will never happen. But what is your SOP for, like, if the customer just disappears, right? And okay lah, so I get to keep your deposit, but do you put in effort to go find this fella and try to return it?
So in the background, right? We will take the few steps of doing whatever we can to try and get hold of that person, and then we'll try and see what we can do to recover. But of course, within the first 1 week, if we can't get in touch, we start the insurance claim, because we've got to help the owner get back that money.
But it sounds like that the insurance process has not been done yet lah.
No, yeah. So actually, it's touch wood. It's so far so good.
That's cool.
Yeah. But we are having them on premium for for that safety net lah.
Yeah, that's right.
But on the other side, so we will try to do whatever it takes to try and recover. We will do the police report and whatsoever not, and hopefully we can try and recover something. That's the thing at the moment lah.
I guess. Okay. I guess the last few questions that I have really is then moving forward lah, right? You've gone through a fairly exciting one first year.
Yes.
It's been a year lah, right?
Yeah.
Just
over a year.
Just over a year.
Actually reaching 2 years this June.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. So, I was. My first question was, when you left your job, did you have a criteria where you would say, okay, you know what, if this does not work out, whatever that measure is, that's it. I'm gonna stop. Right? Did you have that when you jumped out?
Yes, we did. I did. Yes, I did. But to be fair, okay, so my target was 100,000 revenue. We had to hit 100,000 revenue in a year.
Right.
The furthest stretch we could do was 18 months. It was not within a year, but it was just about 18 months.
Okay.
But to be fair, I think we could have quite easily surpassed it if not for COVID. I'm very confident of that.
Right.
Because whatever we are doing now to just ride the wave was what we did prior to COVID. As in, we have sort of determined what the waves were like already, without the anomaly of COVID.
Yeah.
But and we were ready to ride that wave until it just completely changed course, right?
Yeah.
So now we are doing this whole thing on a micro level, like every month sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I that was my target. We were a little short, but I think, like I said, I don't think we've done a bad job. And for that reason, I'm sticking on.
Right.
I think it should, and I think we're going to see light. There is light at the end of this tunnel. Even if it's not, as in, a really good, a really profitable business, it is definitely going to be helping people become more sustainable. At least through that awareness.
Yeah.
So one of the few things we are working towards is that whole system automation, and try and keep it as automated as possible.
Yeah.
Try to achieve around 90% automation.
What are you at now?
65.
Okay.
Yeah. There's still quite a bit of room for improvement because we still sort of check things. We still want to make sure images are good.
Which you eyeball it lah, essentially.
We eyeball it.
Okay.
We also need to verify certain information, like when you upload a product, you got to add the value of the item. So somebody can't put a laptop in, 1,000 ringgit laptop and say it's 10,000 ringgit insurance claim. So those kind of things.
So you do a quick Google just to check.
Yeah, you do a quick Google check those things lah. So those things we still need to do, but we're looking to try and improve that. Hopefully we can achieve 90, maybe 95%.
Yeah.
Even the payouts to the owners, hopefully we can automate that as well.
Okay.
So I think once we hit that, once we hit that, I'm hopeful that the system, in terms of resources, will be much lesser. Time, so our time spent on the platform is a lot less. We can focus on other things like the marketing and things like that.
Yeah.
And really target stuff.
Okay. So beyond the automation, what else are your plans for the platform for the next, couple of years? So
the first immediate target is basically providing, moving down the several different categories. So one of our commitment to Iskandar is basically try and go down this path of this film production. So that's definitely...
That is an interesting one, right?
Yeah. I think that's a really...
Sounds like it just makes so much sense because that industry lives on projects, right?
Yeah. And they're terribly hit during COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Terribly hit.
Got stopped.
And I think this is one way to really help them.
Yep.
We're taking a really small cut in the whole thing, and we're more than willing to really help this whole industry bounce back. And it's also, like the anak tiri of the government, because it's got a lot of...
They were complaining, right?
Yeah,
there were like guidelines for all other industries, but the arts didn't get any break, right?
Yeah, so, it's quite pitiful because I'm sure they deserve a lot more. We've got pretty good movies coming out of the country.
Yeah.
Some way of supporting them one way or another. So definitely want to spend some time there. The second one is definitely moving into event spaces.
Okay.
So we are working with a strategic partner. It's still in its very early days. if all goes well, we will be their main provider for spaces, event spaces.
Right.
And then will be cars, automobiles and stuff.
Mm.
So I mean that's a market that's really everybody understands renting.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And definitely there's more competition there too, lah.
there's a lot more competition there, and I'm not for the competition. What I mean by not for the competition is I'm not really afraid of the competition. I'm not going to bid against competition kind of thing. So the strategy there would be we won't spend too much marketing dollars there. That one will be somewhat organic. But what happens is it tends to have a bit of a drag effect to the other business areas.
Right, right.
And that's what we're looking for. Right.
Just on that one, would you still be a B2C model with the car companies, or would that go back to peer-to-peer?
Technically, Rentsmart is a peer-to-peer, B2C, and B2B platform.
Right.
So we actually do have businesses renting from us.
Ah, okay.
I cannot remember if there's an individual who has rented from an individual, but it's completely possible. A business has rented from a consumer.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. The other way.
Yes.
Must be some special cars, man. Oh no, this is not. This
stuff.
is
Yeah,
stuff. Ah,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay.
So, a company has rented a barbecue set from an individual.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay lah. For some event that they're
Some
gonna have
event.
lah. Okay,
Yeah,
makes sense.
some event.
Ah.
So we are just a marketplace.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we really don't go by defining those labels anymore. So I've actually removed them from our pitches because it tends to confuse people when I use those labels.
Yeah.
Really, we're just a marketplace. So anybody can use us.
Yeah.
Anybody can put stuff up.
So anybody could be a renter. Anybody could be a owner. You call it.
Correct.
Owner.
Owner and renters.
Okay.
So yeah, in that sense, we don't really go by those labels.
Right. Right. So cars next.
Cars next.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's not going to be the
But as you say, like, not a core
Not the
of
core,
the product.
yeah.
Unless it becomes a core. It depends, eh?
yeah. I mean, so it might be my next so-called beachhead.
Yeah.
And then I've got my cars there, I've got my electronics there, and hopefully my production guys then, they take its own thing lah.
Yeah. And hopefully there'll be some crossbreeding and all that.
Yeah,
in between
definitely
there,
there will be
Yeah.
and that's what we hope for, right? So that's what will help you bring your ticket to a much bigger ticket items.
Yeah. And I guess in the end, goes back to your initial vision, lah, right? So hopefully all these guys are not buying individually, right? But they just pass
Start
things around.
consuming things on a more sustainable basis, renting it if you just need it short term, and buy it. So I actually do. I like to tell people this, buy what you want. Buy what you need and rent what you want. You know how people tend to say, yeah.
Okay.
Get people to
You go by that philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Because what you want may not necessarily be what you want forever, right?
correct.
Which is most of the time, like, actually. You want it, and then after a while, it's like, I know I've got 3 daughters, lah. They want a lot of things, but then after a week, like, how come
Interest
you're not playing
dies
with that
down,
anymore?
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Completely.
So I mean, you stick to a philosophy of buying what you need,
Yeah.
but for your wants, you can rent it,
Rent what you need.
and
what
it's
you
only
want.
a fraction of the price of.
Yeah. Hey, cool.
Yes.
Thanks, Indy.
Thank you, Amran.
Yeah,
It's
thanks
really
for
good.
coming in.
Really good conversation here.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. So let's have you back again in I don't know 6 months or something,
Yeah,
and then
it'd be good. It'd be good. We
and
can
see
see
how
where
whether the waves have broken
how the
shore
waves
and
have changed. Yes.
and see which other parts of the business have grown at that
yes.
point.
Yes.
Okay, man.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.